Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Nom Watch Review, part of Nom Talk Network. I am back again doing a wonderful and amazing review. I'm so excited for this one because I have been looking forward to it and also kind of hesitant to see it, but I'm excited that I did. And it's so good to see everybody here on the screen and everybody in the chat and watching. If in case you don't know, on this show we review the latest film drop or throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie and our favorite movie snacks and drinks. Sorry, I read that wrong. I'm your host, Jordyn Orozco, and right now I'm enjoying. So I made some. I know. So I'm like the bigger nommer on the channel. So I made some homemade beef stroganoff, and it's like really good. And like I actually made it from scratch, and it's like yum 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 delicious.
Ooh.
And I have my wonderful and amazing Nom Talk Mai Tai that's always here with me, my trusty little Mai Tai when I'm on here and hosting. But I want to introduce my guests who are more important than I am. Let's say hello to Mike, Carolyn, and Eric. Eric, I know you just hosted on Monday. Carolyn, I know you were on that. Mike, I don't think you were, but like, thank you for joining us for this Mara Brothers edition of Not Much Review. So let's start with Eric. What's going on? How are you? What are you chomping on? What are you sipping on?
I'm doing well, and yeah, no, it's just like a Mario week for us. It's Mario week. That's what we're gonna call it here, and I'm talking network now. But no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm drinking water because that's important. Because life and a Voodoo Ranger, which I always seem to have as well. So that's my non talk drink, and yours is Mai Tai.
What's a Mai Tai?
Um, Also, Jolly Ranchers because they're delicious, and thanks to producer staff, these nummy little mints in these cute little tins.
Ooh,
You're so
They're
cute.
so cute.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, that's what I'm eating and snacking on and drinking on.
Yummy and wonderful, and such a power up. Carolyn, what's going on? What are you chomping on? What are you sipping on?
So today's meal is taiyaki because I went out to dinner. So it's the little deep fried fish and melted ice cream because it's California and we don't do cold in California necessarily.
We
We got a
don't.
lot of work. And then also I have producer Steph's power up mints, power up tiny sour candies, and caffeine because it's been a long day, as also water because that's just what we do. But yeah, so taiyaki and mints, healthy.
It sounds like a good digestive, wonderful journey for you. And
So
Mike,
excited.
what's going on? What are you chomping on? What are you sipping on?
Well, I'm actually visiting my parents. So I'm home. I got some home cooking here, some lumpia and some
Yes.
rice, and some just a little thing of water. I have no mints, but I will try to go out and get some of those. But yeah, that's me today. A little home
That
cooking.
sounds Yes, that sounds
Mhm.
yummy. I cooked myself for my parents tonight, so I have homemade cooking by yours truly. So
Nice.
I feel that. I wish I could just eat what they made me, but I can't tonight. But it's so good to see you all. So in case you all haven't noticed, via our backgrounds, via everything that's going on, via the mushroom mints, we are talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie that just came out in theaters. And wow, let me just say, I was hesitant to see this movie just from the reviews, just from people talking shit, just from saying shit. And my friend was like, let's just go see it. We'll do like the $5 movie. Like we'll go to Look Cinema where it's like you like pay like $5 and then you get like food, you get drinks, you do all that stuff during the movie. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And boy, was I impressed, right? Like usually I try not to go into a movie with like too many sort of like feelings or sort of impressions for it. But in this one, I was like, oh God, fucking Chris Pratt, fucking all these like weird people like doing voiceovers, right? And I'm always hesitant about like big Hollywood stars doing voiceovers because I'm more along the lines of like, like sort of the Last of Us thing where you get people that were originally part of the video game at doing characters in the right, and you get sort of like that interaction with this. And so like seeing all these like big Hollywood names that got introduced like to this film, I was very hesitant, but I was extremely surprised and really happy with the way that this turned out. and excited for future possibilities of Nintendo doing like movies, right? And so I think this movie definitely surprised me in ways that I didn't think it would. And it like, you know, it 0.5 to me, it disappointed me in ways where I was like, like it could have done better. But overall, I think this movie was, you know, absolutely fantastic. I've always been a fan of Mario. I think my introduction was definitely in video games, right? Like especially with Game Boy, right? Like I was just like I was playing Mario, I was doing this. My dad got me my first big brick Game Boy, and I was doing all that. I was playing Mario, I was doing all this. And then N64 came out, and obviously you have Super Mario 64, you have Mario Kart 64, you have all these Marios that are coming out, right? And now that I have a Switch, you have all these like, you know, like, oh, let's I don't want to say like backwards compatibility, but you have these games that are available to play that I've never played before, right? Like Paper Mario, right? I remember playing like Yoshi's Story, right? All these freaking games that are just like released. And so this is definitely something that I was looking forward to. Let's talk about like our introduction to this like film, to this franchise, to this sort of like gaming sort of nerdism that's going on. And let's start with you, Mike.
Okay, so I first started with the original Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo. I remember the old Mario Brothers arcade game, but I was never into it as much. And then I got the Nintendo, and of course everybody knows that's one of the games that came with it. So I got into that, and then ever since I've been kind of hooked on like all the games, except for like I don't think I ever played anything on Virtual Boy, but I played every Mario Brothers. At least I might not have owned every one, but I played every single one through the new console, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I've been playing for a while, so that's where I've come from.
Yeah, and I think for most of us, and especially like young kids, right, who don't know. Sorry, I have a mouthful of meat, and I know that sounds weird, but I'm trying to like chew it as fast as I can. But I think like when I went to the movies, I saw a lot of young kids that were like, "Oh, it's Mario," right? And you're like,
Right.
"Bitch,
Yeah.
you don't like know Mario. Like you don't know the lore. You're like 4. Like what you got exposed to was on like Switch or was on like Wii, right? And you're like,
Right.
you're like you're cute, right? And they have all these like cute new characters, right? That they made references to in this movie. Let's go to Carolyn. Carolyn, what was your introduction to Mario, and what led up to this movie for you?
So I was about 6, which is funny because one of the best parts of the movie for me is when we were leaving was this really little girl, and she's looking at her mom and she goes, "Mommy, Daddy, did you see Luigi?" And then something. And she was just completely immersed in like, you know, what was Luigi doing? When I was 6, my grandma had I want to say it was like an original Super Nintendo, the kind of thing that's like going for some pretty big bucks. But it had Duck Hunt on it, and it had Mario. And Duck Hunt and Mario, playing that Super Nintendo was the highlight of the trip for the grandkids every time we go to grandma's house. And playing Duck Hunt with the gun and pushing it right up against the screen. And then, you know, playing Mario and getting him right up to the little castle and the little do and the little green symbol on on Eric's shirt. That little man haunts me. Eric's shirt haunts me right there. But yeah, that was my introduction. And then obviously I saw the 1993 movie, and that weirded me out for it. And then when Mario Kart came out, like so many other people, you know, if you're of a certain age and a certain generation, Mario Kart is your party game of choice. Yep. And I would argue that that's mid to early to mid millennial is Mario Kart, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that was I think it was like one of those things where like it was almost like Halo for Xbox, right? Like you would get together with your friends, you would play like 4-on-4, you'd have your characters, you'd play and you compete the entire time, depending on different tracks, right? And like depending on different levels. And it was fun. It was just really, really fun. And definitely, yeah, I did play like older versions of Mario before that, but definitely like for me, the N64 version of like Mario Kart was like the thing. And so it was, that's what it is. Eric, what was your like lead up to this film? What was your introduction to Mario?
Well, definitely like Carolyn. I had a Super Nintendo, so I just remember greatly like me and my sister playing Mario. I was always player two because she was always Mario. So we would just stay up hours and hours and hours just playing the game because obviously there was no save. And if you wanted to beat the game, it was just on. So that was just like the good memories of Mario that I had for me. And then one of my uncles bought me a Super Nintendo or N64. And that's where I got introduced to like Mario 64 and Mario Party. Mario Party is actually my go-to party game for Mario because I love just like the map feature of it and like running around and playing a board game. But yeah, no, and then I saw the 93 and however much I love to hate that movie, I love that I hate that movie.
Mhm.
It's a weird thing. But yeah, no, I'm always been into Mario. I can't wait to go out to California and go to Mario Land, you know.
Yeah. I know. I still have to go, and I've been offered
Me
to go
too.
so many times, and I have freaking
Oh.
gone. So
Well, I'm
mad.
out there in May, so that is my plan to try to
In
go
May.
in May. Yeah.
Okay, good, because that's when everything at work like dies and ends. So maybe we can do like a little co-op trip. That would be awesome. Um, great. Let's first give our popcorn readings, and then we will go into this in the show. So let's start with you, Eric. Since we ended with you, what would you give this film?
I'm actually surprised at my popcorn rating. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I honestly did not think I was going to give it a 5 out of 5 because I'm probably one person out there that hates Chris Pratt, like wholeheartedly hates Chris Pratt. I thought
No,
he was
you're not alone in that, trust me.
I like from the preview that we saw when they first like came out from that voice, like I was hoping we were going to do a Sonic thing and they were going to recast him, but didn't happen. But no, like overall, this movie for me was completely nostalgic. The Easter eggs, like the storyline of it, the little funny like songs and stuff like that that they did. It doesn't deserve anything less than a 5 for me.
Yes. And Carolyn, what would you give and rate this film?
So I said 5 out of 5 too, almost for the same reasons, and I'll add one more. I'm a big believer in that if I can't enjoy something on a level for me, I can still enjoy the fact that other people enjoy it. Just because, you know, I think for a lot of people who will look at something and they might look at this and like a lot of critics are going, oh, you know, it's a story for babies. It's so simplistic. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, sure, it is. But being that I'm an adult, I can watch this and I can be happy for the kids that get to sit and the little girl that gets to go, did you see that Luigi was scared and then he wasn't scared and now he's not scared? And I can sit and I can enjoy the fact that the kids enjoy the movie, which is where the 5 out of 5 comes in for me. It's so, yes, Mikey came in with the.
There you go.
So I love that. But yeah, I can enjoy the fact that, you know, the I love the Easter eggs, I love the nostalgia, I love the take on Bowser and like this the character performances and just how much fun people were having doing it was what, you know, could kick it out of a 4.5 to a 5 for me, just because I'm enjoying other people enjoying it. And that little kid with her, you know, Luigi was scared and then he wasn't scared. And I'm like, this movie was for you, and I'm happy it's here for you. So I'm enjoying it because you enjoyed it, tiny child.
I love it. That's so great. And then let's go to Mike. Mike, what would you give this film and why?
All right, not to be like jumping on the bandwagon here, but I did also give it a 5 out of 5. For me, it was just a fun movie. Like I also enjoyed seeing all the young kids get into it. I was surprised. I don't know how do these kids know like the stuff that we know. Like we kind of grew up with it. But I was very happy with it. Like it was one of the few movies that like I actually felt like happy and like sad. Like I walked out of there going, that was the best experience I've had all year in a movie. Because it was just fun seeing all the Easter eggs and seeing like things that I grew up like loving, and then all of a sudden everybody else loved it too, and it just felt like, oh, it just felt validated. It was like so good. So and then I was also kind of worried about the voice acting and stuff like that, but I thought Charlie Day was really funny as Luigi, and that's actually my favorite Mario brother. I thought all of the supporting cast was really funny as well. And the story is a little, you know, you could work on that a little bit more, but I mean, as far as just like the stuff you saw visually, it was amazing. It was fun. It was great. I loved it.
And I love it. I love how y'all are 5 out of 5. So I have to say my rating's a 4.5 out of 5. And I think for very specific reasons, some of which I've told you, but for me, um, it was partially casting. It was partially like, so for me, when I see an animated film, right, and I know that a big Hollywood name is going to be sort of like the VO of this character, it's very hard for me to separate the voice with that character, right? In this movie, I didn't have that problem at all, right? So I was like very worried that Chris Pratt was going to be Mario, right? I was very worried that Jack Black was going to be Bowser, and we'd hear them, right? Like we'd hear that sort of like Chris Prattish, Jack Blackish, like timbre in their voices. I didn't get any of that. It was like past like 5 minutes in the film, and I was like, "Oh, it's Mario. Cool. Like I'm down with that, right?" And I love how in the beginning they sort of played on his voice, where it's like, "Oh, he does that voice for marketing purposes for his
Mhm.
plumbing co, right?" And I was like, "Oh, cute. Like, okay, I could see that." And then you get like the original Mario voice, right? That's like there, and he's like, "No, it's like Yahoo!" Right? And you're like, I love it, right? Um, I think for me, it was the Jack Black singing where I was like, it's Jack Black. It was just a fucking PR move to like for him to just sing twice in the freaking movie. And I'm like, you sound like Jack Black. It's not Bowser, it's Jack Black. And I was like, fuck, like, really? Like, you had to just do that. I did find, however, Peaches, 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 oh, hilarious. So I will say that that was hilarious. But I think for me, even like Jack Black doing Bowser, I was like, on point, absolutely beautiful, 100%. And it didn't sound like him. And so it was just, it was amazing. Yeah. And there's some parts of the story, I feel like, geez, what is her name? Um, the one that played Peach, Anya
Anya
Taylor
Taylor-Joy.
Joy,
Right.
they
Yeah.
could have done a little better. I was like, like it sounds a little too Anya for me, right? Sounds a little too Queen's Gambit, a little too like most of the characters that she's doing, and it wasn't. It was almost like casting the right person for the right role, but it being too right to where it was like, I don't see right. And I think if it wasn't for the fact that they made Peach so like boss girl, like badass, that it would have taken away sort of it wouldn't have been who Peach was, right? So let's go into that. Let's talk about casting a little bit. I see Eric, you're down to say something. Let's talk about VO casting. Let's talk about everything that happened with the characters. Let's start with you, Eric.
I agree with you on Anya Taylor-Joy. I was worried about her as well as Chris Pratt coming into it. But with the direction that they took Peach with that little bit more of a like a badass like warrior princess type thing, which Nintendo has really never done with her. She has her own game and everything like that, but it's still very light, and this actually develops Peach a little bit more throughout the realm of Nintendo for me. So I wasn't mad at what she did. Like you said, the casting was a little bit too on point to where she is Peach in reality, weirdly. Everybody else was great casted. Like I said, Chris Pratt with that little beginning of the woohoo and everything like that. Like he did well. I have to admit, like watching the 93 earlier this week, I was just like, well, he didn't really talk like Mario either. So I
Mm-mm.
should be able to give Chris Pratt a little bit more of a pass than I had been. It's just my disdain for him. But everybody else did very well. My favorite in the entire movie, though, not in there a lot, but Lumily, the little sprite when they're in jail hanging above, that has to
Yes.
be my favorite character in this entire freaking movie because they're so bad with their like, oh, we're gonna die, and just like so happy, like great. That's my favorite character in this entire movie. But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That little sprite thing was comic relief. I was like, this is hilarious. Like, so there's parts of it where I was like, it's hilarious, right? And then you're like, oh, it's like serious Mario, right? Um, and I do like, so I saw it with two of my friends. One of my friends is like a huge Super Mario fan and was like telling me the lore the entire time. And I really like the fact that they went with sort of like a like a headstrong, like amazing power woman with Peach, right? She was like, no, I'm the princess bitch, and I'm gonna teach you, Mario, how to like run the course, right? I do want to point to the chat really quick. The Fat Jedi Knight said, I don't know how much the guy who casted Key got paid, but it wasn't enough, right? So I think it was the voice of Toad, right? I was expecting more from the voice of Toad, and I do definitely agree that there was times when I was like, you are speaking too much like a human and not like a toad, right? Where they're like, and it wasn't like that. It was only like that when it was like a drastic situation, right? And so I think for Toad, for me, I feel like the voice or the casting or the direction could have gone definitely a different way. Carolyn, let's go to you. What do you think about the VO casting in this movie?
So I'll jump into a character I don't see a lot of people talking about because I had no idea who he was until I looked at the credits, which is Seth Rogen as my man Donkey Kong. He just enveloped, like he just dissolved into that character. And I was like, wait a minute. And then I go, wait a minute. And then I'm like, oh, wow. So it was a really, he didn't really do anything with it, but I do have to commend him for not being Seth Rogen. Like, because normally Seth Rogen is very distinctive, but I was like,
except for his laugh.
Yeah.
His laugh.
Except for his laugh. You wouldn't know that it was Seth Rogen until he went, and I was like,
oh my God. I didn't even pick up on that. No, but
yeah.
So yeah, you wouldn't have known it was him until his laugh. But that's so I gotta commend him on that. And then I gotta commend the character take on Bowser as like the slightly like completely like the bad guy, but he's also like a guy in a band who, you know, you can kind of picture him being your next door neighbor, and he just doesn't want to, you don't want to touch him because you think he kind of smells, but he still looks cool. But you know, you watch him walk down the street and you're like, kind of sus. And then the last thing that I will contribute is I don't know who or what Lumily was from. I don't know who voiced them, but that's millennial culture in a nutshell, is looking very cute and pretty, and then saying things like, the existence that we live is pain.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah.
No, my favorite part is when they're about to die and they don't. She's like, ah.
I told you, Eric, it's millennial. That is millennial culture right there.
The sweet release of death.
The sweet release of death.
Look, bro, we've been through a lot. Millennials have been through a lot. Okay.
We have.
Absolutely. Let's get to the chat really quick. Tim Spiration says stories for babies are not always well written. Good writing is good regardless of audience. Q Ball, hello Q. When I heard that Jack Black playing Bowser, I thought, oh shit, this is perfect. His personality and his voice fits perfectly. I mean, the casting is perfect and each actor is perfect for their characters. There was so many perfects in that. I love it. And Big W1 says, in the most recent Mario plus Rabbids game, Peach got a shotgun umbrella, so movie Peach seemed on point to me. I love it. Absolutely. Holy crap. So somebody redeemed You're So Punny and chose Carolyn. So Carolyn, we're gonna go to you really quick, and then we're gonna go to Mike. Big Debbie said movie Bowser is very accurate. Oh, Q Ball redeemed You're So Punny and chose Carolyn. So if you gotta blame somebody, blame Q Ball. Big W1 said movie Bowser is very accurate to RPG Bowser and Paper Mario Bowser, who are two different characters.
Well, Debbie's got quite a lot on the ball, almost as much as Q Ball does. You know, because that's how you that's why are you laughing? Are you assuming that I've gone bananas? I'm sorry, everyone. Apparently, my co-hosts are monkeying around. I am truly, truly sorry.
There we go.
Truly sorry about that. But hey, you know what? I understand why people keep picking It's Punny for me. I mean, after all, it's a me.
This is great. Keep going. We can just do this for another half hour and then we'll end the stream.
Well, we're just gonna stay here and watch Carolyn.
That was great. That was so great.
I mustache you all to give me a break.
That was great. Let's go to you, Mike. After that, I don't know how you could follow up, but what did you
I'm not
think
going to
about
try.
the
Yeah, I'm not going to try to follow
what
that
did you
up.
think about the acting? What did you think about the cast selection?
Overall, I thought it was really good. I was like everybody else. I was kind of worried about Chris Pratt's voice as Mario, but it worked. I liked how they explained it in the movie. Luigi's always my favorite, and I thought Charlie Day killed it. He was great as Luigi. It was exactly what I imagined. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. I was hoping to get more of him as like. So they changed his voice to make him sound like much cuter, I guess. So it was like I knew that was going to be the way, but I was like, I kind of wanted to hear his voice a little bit more. But it was definitely him. It's like his sense of humor, his quick wittedness. It kind of shown through there. Also, I liked Cranky Kong's voice. I had to look for who that was. That was
Fred Armisen.
Fred Armisen, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like that interesting take on Cranky Kong. That was pretty good. So that was a nice surprise. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the voice acting was actually turned out to be a real highlight of the whole thing. I was surprised with some of the ones that we got there. It was really good. It was really cool.
Yeah, like you said, like I knew who was doing the voice when and where, but you don't notice it, like you don't recognize it, which I appreciate and I love. Like I feel like that's versatility in sort of like animation, acting, all that stuff, right? And I appreciated it in this. I know we've been sort of alluding to it, but I definitely want to address some of the sort of oh my god, what are they called? The little, not gemstones. Oh my
Easter
god.
eggs?
Thank you. Easter eggs. We just said Easter on Sunday. What the fuck? The little Easter eggs that were in this film because
Easter egg, it's a Mario Easter egg.
Hey.
My partner just brought this to me, so I was like, hey.
Eric just kind of killed it right there. I mean, you brought up the Easter eggs, and lo and behold, he pulled out an Easter egg. I mean, forget punny. That's excellent.
Did they redeem it again? What happened here?
No. She keeps going and I love it.
On a roll.
We're on a roll. Yeah, so let's talk about some of the Easter eggs in this, right? So some of the ones that I recognized, that I noticed, definitely was the Donkey Kong Mario Save Peach, video game when he's definitely challenging Donkey Kong to get his army. I definitely you hear some of it in the text where or in the script when I guess in the lore when Bowser takes over Mushroom Land, he turns all of the mushrooms into blocks. And so when Mario, I guess, hits a block, you hear one of the mushroom people go, "Oh, he's a murderer!" in like the background. And you won't get that unless you know some of the lore, right? I also noticed that when they addressed Peach's sort of like history and like where she's from, she doesn't know, right? Like we just automatically assume that she's human, but in reality, like she's not, right? Like she's not from this galaxy or from like all that stuff, which alludes to like Mario Galaxy and some like definite things that are coming there, and just a whole bunch more, right? And I appreciated that, especially for people that are like diehard fans. To people that have just seen this, they're probably like, "Where the fuck are these penguins from?" Right? Like, what's going on? Like, what? Why is this going on? Right? So, what are some of the Easter eggs that you got introduced to? What are some of the ones that you're happy they brought up? Let's go to you, Carolyn.
So I have a couple that made me really happy. Obviously, for nostalgia reasons, the Duck Hunt Cafe, where they had the little duck on the neon sign. That was one of my favorites because that to me is such a core memory that's like tied to Mario for me is Duck Hunt because I play the two games back to back. There's two different Easter eggs I'm thinking of involving levels, so I'm trying to pick which one to see if other people garnered it or caught onto it. So I guess I'll go with the Mario level maker. Easter egg where they're in the Mushroom Kingdom and he just keeps hopping up these more and more ridiculous levels. And I'm like, that's Mario level maker. and he's just trying to navigate it, and even everything from like the color scheme to, I was like, that's Mario Level Maker. And yeah, and I guess I'll just do both and see if people pick it up, because the other one that I really liked was when they were going through the city in the beginning, and they went through the basic level, and at the very end he drops down the side, and there's the castle, the burger stand, and the flag goes down on the burger stand because he's hit the castle, and he opens the door for Luigi, even though like he's done the basic maze from like a classic Mario game. I love that.
Yeah, I loved how when they were going, that's the one where they're going through Brooklyn, right? The construction site. It was amazing. I was like, oh my God, yes, 2D, yes. Oh my God, please do it. Oh my God, yes, boom, boom. And then it was, and I loved it. I loved every moment of that scene. Let's go to you, Mike. What did you think about some of the Easter eggs? Did you notice anything we didn't?
The first one I noticed was the Punch Out stuff in the pizzeria. I thought that was really cool. The original Jumpman video game, that was fun to see there. Also, yeah, and that whole pizzeria thing, there was like a bunch of different like connections to different games, like I think what was it? The Spike was another one from, I think, that he was only mentioned previously in one of the games.
Yeah,
Actual character here. I also, one of my favorite Easter eggs was when Luigi's going back and thinking about them as kids, and they're the baby Mario and the baby Luigi from like a Mario Kart. You could select them in Mario Kart. I was like, oh, that's not. I didn't expect that one. That was really good. That was probably my favorite Easter egg, was that one, because I didn't expect that one at all. And then, yeah, I mean, there are so many other ones, but I mean, those are like the two that I stood out for the most for me. Yeah.
yeah. You get like baby Mario, you get baby Luigi,
Mhm.
and then you did get baby Peach in that little like where she came from. And we were like, oh my God. And then like she put her pacifier in the Toad's mouth, and it was like really cute. So yes, loved that. Eric, what about you? Is there anything that you saw that you were just like, oh my God, like, yes.
Yes, one of my because I love Luigi. Luigi, like,
Yeah.
I'm wearing his shirt. He's my guy. My favorite is kind of like nodding to his video game that he had with Luigi Mansion when he gets into the dark end, and he just nodding to that for him. I was like, okay, like you're doing him justice. You're not just like making him disappear throughout this whole movie and not giving him any action. So that was my biggest one for him. And plus, like going through, if you guys noticed, like through like the scenes like castles in different worlds, there were little plaques with like numbers of like 1-3 or 4-9 to like different levels that they were going through. They're minuscule and in the background, but I loved it that there was like building throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's dope.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I liked about this was there were definitely some certain casting choices that were made. So like when they were in the pizza restaurant and they were talking about their commercial, you get like the original Mario voice of the guy that's actually playing like a video game, and he turns around and he goes, no, you need to go Yahoo! And then that was the original, like that's the guy that does the original voice of Mario, and a bunch of Mario, Luigi, Waluigi, Wario, and all of these other characters in literally almost every Mario video game that's ever been like produced and done. And then you get the one that was in the actual commercial who was like, yeah, they really solved my plumbing problem. They came over and did this. She was the original voice of Peach. And I don't know if anybody caught that. Yeah. And so I just read that after, like, because I was like, oh, Mario's like looking stuff up. And so she was the original voice of Peach that like that came out. And so I was like, heck yes, like you're bringing back nostalgia. You're bringing back all of these things that the fans that truly love this like video game franchise would definitely recognize. But also you're including things that like new audiences will know, right? Like that they will recognize and like be a part of, right? And so I definitely love that about this film. And it was definitely a highlight for me when I was watching this. Now, so as far as the story goes, I feel like it was fast paced because it needed to be for like what it was, and I feel like a lot of this was marketed towards like younger audiences, which is fine, right? But I feel like for us older audiences, it also was marketed to us too, because it's like we don't want dragged out things, right? Like it's based off of a video game, right? Which is very fast paced. You're going through things, you're like boom, 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 right? And I don't feel like there was any scene that where I was like, okay, hurry up, let's get it going, let's continue, let's do all that, right? And there was plenty of like material for them to work off of, but they didn't even address like I don't even want to say like 3/4 of the Mario universe, right? Like of what could have been addressed. Yet they still did a movie that was long enough to keep my attention, where I was like, oh, absolutely 100%. What did we think about the story so far, or the story in general? We can talk about the beginning. We can talk about the introduction to them going to the Mushroom Kingdom. We can talk about the introduction of them going to the warp pipes, and then them separating through all of that. So let's start with you, Mike. What did you think about the story overall?
I really enjoyed it. I liked how they blended in like realistic real world explanations of how they got there, how this world exists within the underground of Brooklyn and stuff like that. That's I don't think that's ever been touched upon. And so that was really cool. I liked how they integrated that into it. I also like that they hit on a lot of things from the games, but they left enough that like you could see where they can go with it. There's like so much more they can expand on, and they didn't all try to cram it all into one movie. Like, we know people want to see this and this, we'll set it up, but you'll have to wait till the next one to see it. And I was like, oh, that's cool that they set it up at least. Like they didn't abandon it. We know it's coming, so that was really cool. Mario Kart, I feel like has a very prominent role in this one, whereas like that came in much later in the Mario series, but it also is the most popular Mario game. So I'm glad they spotlighted that a lot, because I think that's probably the most popular Mario game nowadays. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I think it is. And I'm glad they gave it a little spotlight there. And I like a lot of the real world connections, like when they go back and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool to see how that works, because also the TV show, the Mario Brothers Super Show, was kind of like played off of like the fact that they're real people, and like but they still like had the Mushroom Kingdom and stuff like that, and they kind of like, I don't know, it was really cool how they did that. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and you're right. Like they left a lot of open endings, like
Yeah,
quote unquote, for like for continuing films, right? And I think one of the things that I noticed was, oh my god, River, the Nom Talk cat, wants to come into my room and piss me off. One of the things that I realized was they sort of introduced Yoshi when they were traveling to they were traveling to go and go to the Kong Kingdom, but they didn't really and then you get like the glimpse of Yoshi, like one of the Yoshis looking back, and then spoiler alert, like one of the credit scenes was definitely the Yoshi egg hatching, right?
yeah,
And you're like, shit, like that in itself introduces an entire new film, right? Because you
yeah.
have like Yoshi's story, you have the Mario games where like you could just like ride Yoshi and like you can do shit that you can't
Yoshi
do.
Island. Is the name
Yeah,
of
you
it?
have
Yeah.
like all these like, right? And so you like have an opening for other people and other movies to just
Yeah.
like prosper off of, right? Which leads me to another point where it's like, is this an opening to a Nintendo verse of movies, right? Because you have a whole entire franchise of games, right? I'm sitting there and I am a gigantic Legend of Zelda fan, right? I'm like, if this isn't an introduction to fucking Nintendo doing an entire verse of movies, I don't know what is. That being said, they better fucking do a Legend of Zelda movie after this, right? Like Nintendo branded, let's do it, right? Because there's been talk of like doing a live action Legend of Zelda film for I don't know, like 1,000 years, right? Like, and there's so much material they can use, right? And so anyway, what did you think about the story, Eric? How did you think that it played out? What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I love the story. I love that they didn't try to do too much. Unlike the 93 version that tried to like take everything and put it in there. This one threw all the Easter eggs that you could so they could make more movies. But the storyline of just Bowser being in love with Peach and them having to save her kingdom and him, it was great. It was well thought out. It gives us hope for the future of this multiverse that they're going to do. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Touching base on to Legend of Zelda, though, the rumors that they were going around and stuff like that, I don't know if Nintendo's going to let them do a live action just because of how the last one they did happened. So since then, they haven't let them do it. So it's probably going to stay in the animated realm. But I'm excited to see where it goes. Definitely. Yeah. No, but it was a fantastic movie. I have really no complaints about it. Like storyline, pacing, they did wonderfully.
Yeah, absolutely. I, you know, and like you said, like I feel like it was paced well, and then it caught everybody's attention to the point where it's like you couldn't necessarily look away, and like if you did, you missed something, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like I feel like a live action has come a long way since then, and so I'm hoping for a live action because I feel like an animated. Okay, we're not talking about Legend of Zelda because it's Super Mario, but I feel like an animated version of that would like not do it as much justice as if you would get live actors doing the actual thing of like Link, Zelda,
Okay.
Ganon, and
So
like
if they did
doing.
an animated of Zelda, like the remake of Final Fantasy VII, would you not be down to see that?
I mean, I'd be down for anything. Even if they did like a 2-bit fucking movie of Legend, I'm like, I'm there. I'm there. Let's fucking do it.
In the
Right.
seat,
But
popcorn in hand.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. First one, like waiting outside, like dressed up, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're doing all that. Carolyn, what did you think about the story? What did you think about the pacing? How did you think about the movie overall?
Well, so as a critic, no, as somebody who is familiar with people who were writing about it from a critical perspective, and as someone who is a critic, initially I looking at it briefly from an adult's perspective, I was like, oh, this is a very simplistic story. I was waiting for more things for Donkey Kong. I was waiting for more explanations for things. And then the truth is, you know, it didn't need it because this is a game for kids, and it's a very simplistic game for it was a very simplistic game, and it read exactly like that. There was enough to keep adults interested. It moved very quickly, which it needed to because it was a very simplistic storyline. If they had dragged out the simplistic storyline for adults, the adults that they wanted to get in there with the Easter eggs would not have been there, because we would have just been, you know, we would have fallen asleep, or we would have been sitting there wishing for the sweet embrace of death, much like our patron saint Lumily. I mean, truthfully. So it's I think so they did it. It was the perfect balance of pacing and Easter eggs to keep the adults entertained, and story for the kids, because once again, it's like you enjoy it from the kids' perspective. And then they did open it, I think, to I've seen the photoshopped images, I've seen the AI generated images and shit of, like, you know, the Super Mario universe that leads to like the Super Smash Brothers movie event. And so I'm not necessarily against the idea. I would be very interested. I think that could be a come up and definitely an MCU challenger.
Yeah.
And that would definitely shake things up. I don't think it would be DCU. I think it would be a Mario universe that would really. There used to be this line at my day theme park job where people would be like, "Oh, which one are you more excited for, Star Wars or Marvel?" And people would be like, "Nintendo, Nintendo Land." So I think it'd be a definite game changer and challenger. And then I will just pose a question to the group at large, since everybody's answered, and since, you know, Jordyn did mention Legend of Zelda, but in anime.
Ooh, I'd be down for that.
An anime, because
Yeah.
you could, it has the same pathos as live action. Get a studio behind it that Miyamoto-san would want, and then you don't have to worry about the Super Mario Brothers movie that haunts the film industry. And the fact that, you know, I'm pretty sure that if you mention the words live action Nintendo anything, Nintendo would be like a little cat hiding under a rock and just kind of peer out and be like, no, and then go back under the rock. and we would get any movies.
Are you
But
thinking
an anime Zelda? Anime Zelda.
Are you thinking 2D anime, like traditional anime, or like more of a 3D? Okay, cool. Yeah,
2D,
I'd be down for that.
2D animated Zelda, maybe, and it would have you'd have to do a you'd have to do an all Japanese voice cast, and then you'd have a dubbed American version, but you'd want the subtitled Japanese voice cast. You'd want it with you'd want it all done in Japan, and then you'd have a Zelda animated film, and then you just release it over here, because we're seeing a lot more with like Call Your Name and Belle. We're seeing a lot more animated movies getting a wider release, or a lot more anime movies getting a wider release that aren't Ghibli. So I think that would actually be a really great way to like follow Star Wars's lead and bring people into that particular medium. And also, I know so many people who would just be 100% down with like a straight up 2D animated Zelda. But it would have to be completely made in Japan, done in Japan, and then redubbed in the US. Like, it would have to be straight up millennial anime fodder for it to work the way I'm envisioning.
And would it have an obvious connection to the Mario movie, or would it be just on its own? Okay, yeah. I'd be down for that. Heck yeah.
Yeah, just he'd be an anime version, and then there'd be like some kind of crossover maybe where like the art style changes at the end of it.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, I think so. I think you all are hitting on a really good point where it's like, at what point do we appease like true fans, and do we appease like people that definitely want to see something of substance versus like what's going to make the most money, right? And I feel like if you had like, obviously the way of Super Mario Brothers in 1998, or is it 98 version? 93 version, where you're like, what the fuck was that? Versus like, now we're in 2023 and we're like, well, live action isn't what it used to be, right? Like it's not right. Like, and I think, I hate to say it, I think a lot of ways like James Cameron sort of changed that perspective. George Lucas changed that perspective. Steven Spielberg changed that perspective, where you see a lot of these live action films like coming to life, where you have sort of like these digital like ways to say, oh, we know that this is fake, but we like it, right? Like, and we see success with Avatar, right? Like we see success with Star Wars, right? We see success with E.T., with Close Encounters, right? Like we see all these like huge successes with these live action films. But when it comes to things like, for example, like the last Avatar, where it just completely got fucked, right? Like where the live action was it was terrible, right? Like it was just absolutely terrible. But is that the director, or is that the way that they sort of did the entire film, right? And I do feel like anybody that is a huge Legend of Zelda fan would be down for any type of movie, whether it's like anime, live action, right? Like we'd show up, we'd go out there and support it, right? Eric.
So I have to say, would you be down for a Legend of Zelda movie by M. Night Shyamalan?
Hell no.
That's cold. That's cold.
No. But that's the thing, right? Like he already dug his grave 12 feet under. And I'm like, of course nobody would see that. And I feel like nobody would hire him to make a big franchise like Legend of Zelda would. And if they did, I would boycott. I'd be the first one there. I don't know. Anyway, I do. Okay. So anyway, sorry. To the chat, Cue Ball Redeem suggests a poll. What Nintendo movie would you be excited for in Phase 1? Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers 2, Zelda, Sonic, or Yoshi? Let's go to Eric first.
Okay. I have to go Yoshi just because he's also my favorite. Like I said, him and Luigi are right there. Sonic, I'm excited to see where Sonic's going. Then Mario, then Zelda, then Donkey Kong.
Okay. And Carolyn, what do you think?
I think I have to kick off with Zelda, and I might be by and then go into Donkey Kong just because I'd like to see them give Donkey Kong a little bit more character. But Zelda I'm stuck on my idea of a Zelda anime, y'all. I'm so sorry. I will not give that up. I want a actual, like, I want the guy who did Shizumi to do a Zelda anime. I want a beautiful, like, orchestral score 2D animation Zelda anime made in Japan, and like I'm going to that timeline. And then you get the anime versions of Mario and Luigi, and then you jump back out and you have to have them deal in so I'd say start with those two. Yoshi is tied, I think, for number 2 with Zelda, because there is not a female presenting individual that does not love Yoshi. That is just a fact of life. Yoshi is the greatest, and we need more Yoshi. So those are the top 3 percolating in my head.
Definitely. And Mike, what would you say?
I'm gonna go with Donkey Kong first because I think they've already established that world, the jungle world that he lives in, and so I want to see more of that play out. And then Yoshi, because I think he's probably like the 3rd most important character of the Mario series, and then Mario 2, and then I think Sonic and Mario is kind of like the Batman Superman or the Captain America Iron Man type movie, you know what I mean? Like towards the end, like you have to establish the other characters first, and then you can have the 2 rivals square off. And then maybe that could lead to a Smash Brothers movie or something like that. But I would go Donkey Kong first, then Yoshi, then Sonic.
Wait, okay,
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Jordyn. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, go, Carolyn.
Isn't Sonic Sega?
Yes.
Yes.
And aren't we in Nintendo? Am I demonstrating my sheer nerd ignorance here?
No, it's just because I think Sonic has been like releasing things on Nintendo, so they're kind of playing nice right now.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of like working together.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah.
Because honestly, when's the last time anybody or Sega has come out with the console?
Right.
Fair
So Sonic
point.
has been appeared in Smash Brothers, I believe, right?
Yeah, and then there's the whole like
Yeah.
tennis games and the like Olympic game things that
yeah. Mario and Sonic had a face off in the Olympic game, I think. So yeah. So yeah.
I apologize, Jordyn, once again. Ignore me.
That's good. That's good that you asked that, because a lot of people don't know that. So no stupid interruptions or anything like that. I would say obviously Zelda is going to be my phase 1. Like, let's fucking do it. Let's do this. And then definitely see some type of like Super Mario Brothers 2, or definitely a Yoshi. I was a avid fan of Yoshi Story for such a long time. It was like I needed to get every color Yoshi. I needed to like play, do all this stuff, do it. And it was definitely, something that I definitely would want to see. But to be fair, like at the end of our conversation yesterday after we saw it, it ended up being like, well, what if this all ends up to like an Avengers, like freaking Super Smash Brothers, like competition movie, right? Where it's like Mortal Kombat meets Avengers meets Infinity Wars meets like all this stuff, right? And you get this like Nintendo like verse of like movies where obviously you're going to have to take care of the individual movies at first, right? And then you get like the original Super Smash Brothers together, and then this is what it is, right? That we haven't even like talked about like Pokemon, right? Like we haven't even talked about how Pikachu, right? Like how all these other characters are going to be introduced into like Ness, right? Like all like Samus, right? Like Captain Falcon, right? Like fuck, we could go so many places with this.
Apparently, they did have ice climbers in this one.
Oh, they did?
At some point during this movie, there was the ice climbers in this movie. So they're already kind of taking place.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I am down for this like collaboration, like not end all, but like end of phase 1, like here's Super Smash Brothers, boom, here it is, right? So definitely. Let's do last minute thoughts on this movie really quick. Let's go to you, Eric. What are your last minute thoughts? Would you recommend this?
Yeah, no, definitely recommend this movie. It's a good time for adults and kids and teens and maybe not old people, but we don't talk about them anymore. But no, it's great. I suggest everybody sees it. An enjoyable time, great cast. Even Chris Pratt did great. So yeah, go out there, see it.
Yeah, old people, we're not talking about Atari. And Carolyn, what about you? Any last minute thoughts? Would you recommend?
I love it. The kid who sat there and it was a little girl and she was so happy for Luigi not being scared anymore. Go see it for the little kid. Go see it for the little kid and for Lumily. Do it for Lumily. You know, that lovely little light in our lives that just reminds us that existence is pain.
We love it. And Mike, what are any last minute thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. Don't let any of the bad reviews sway you because it's a fun time. And I think if you grew up with it, you'll love it. If you've got kids, they'll love it. It's hard for me to think of anybody that wouldn't like it because it's just a fun movie overall. So I mean, yeah, it's great.
Uh-oh, really? Okay, so Nom Talk Network redeemed Give Your Best Mario. I feel like y'all did this on Monday.
Nobody is going to beat Kurt from Monday. Nobody's going to beat Kurt from Monday.
How is that a thing?
Okay. Let's start with Eric since you hosted on Monday. Give your best Mario.
Oh, it's me, Mario.
I love it. And Carolyn, let's go to you.
Why? It's me, Mario. Oh wait, no, that's Wario. It's a me, Mario, not Wario. Why? It's not Wario,
Oh my god, that was so funny. I loved it.
It really can't compare to Kurt though. Kurt
killed it.
What did he say?
He literally just held up the mustache and was like, "It's me, Mario," as Chris Pratt.
Oh my god. Okay, Mike, you have the floor.
I can't do any of the dialogue, but I'll go wahoo, like Mario would do it. There you go.
We love it. We love it. Mm-hmm. Oh shit, that means it's my turn.
I'm like, it's your turn.
Wait, that's all the time we have today on Nom. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can come up with a. Okay. Okay. I'll go. It is me, Mario, and now we are going to battle.
That's really good.
There you go.
That was the best one.
No, it's the best one.
That was the best one I think out of Monday and today.
Yeah. Well, besides Kurt.
No, but Kurt had me in stitches when he was like, "It's me, Mario's Chris Pratt." Oh my god.
Just thinking about
that. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. You all have been amazing. Thank you all for contributing to the chat and for making us do things that some of us don't want to do, but obviously we wanted to do today. And so I want to thank my guests for participating in this wonderful review of the Super Mario Brothers movie. Where can we find you all? Let's start with you, Mike. Where can we find you on the socials?
GripC47 on all the socials.
Oh, that was easy. Wow. Yep. And Eric, where can we find you on the socials?
You can find me on all socials at Heartless7. That's HARTL3SS7. All socials except for Twitter because I don't have that anymore.
That part. And Carolyn, where can we find you?
That's Carolyn in Fandom on Bird app since I still have the Bird app. And then Carolyn's Geek Out on Instagram because I'm trying to spend more time on Instagram. And Caroline/cosplay on TikTok where people can watch me cosplay mascot horror games because I do that. And freelance writer, if you're looking for freelancers, hire me, Carolyn in Fandom on Twitter. Best way to get a hold of me.
Boom. There we go. And you can find me on City of Stars 13 on Instagram. I post a lot of funny stories. I don't post a lot of funny posts, and I should. And I always say that, and I never do. So something's got to change. Something's got to give. But you know what? That's all the time we have to talk about today. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to join our Discord to keep the conversation going, as well as subscribing to our platforms. They are all at Nom Talk Network. Tune in to our next show, which is going to be The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 7. Are you serious? Are we already on Episode 7 on Friday?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a thing? Jesus. I'm so far behind. Anyway, it's on Friday. But until then, I am your host, Jordyn Orozco, and I hope you have a nomorific evening. Good night, y'all.
Yeah.